outgoings. Let's talk about Crookie. There's talks about Jadon Sancho. We know he's back. Bruce said Dortmund could be back in for him. He didn't want to take the pay cut at Chelsea, and Marcus Rashford. Just those two clustered together, because we'll get to Garnacho.
Give us some good news, please.
I mean, how do you see this going on? Because if you're Jadon Sancho, look, we're fans and we say it's a disgrace. Texting freedom, etc., etc. But if I'm honest, guys, as a player, of course he's not going to take a pay cut. This is our problem. Man United gave him this stupid contract, and if I'm Jadon Sancho, we can laugh and put memes about him on there, but why am I going to take a 60, 70 grand wage cut?
Because he's 25, though. Come on. And if he genuinely wants to be back with England, for example, I know that there's been rumours of a Saudi, I'm sure you'll tell us all everything, but, there's these links to Saudi. I'm not saying that a move to Saudi would completely wipe out his England career, because we've seen Ivan Toney come back, albeit a much better player who was in the mix with England before that move. But I think you've got to look at it surely at some point and humble yourself a little bit and think, you're 25, sorry, with that Manc accent then, you're 25. If you really want to be a footballer and you want to still be playing at the highest level, surely does he not have to humble himself a little bit?
I hear that, right? But this is the thing about what we don't always think. We think about this on the fan perspective. From the player perspective, he's going, OK, I've got a year left of this money. Man United give this to me. I go back to Man United and refuse to fit into Chelsea's wage structure. Man United must find me a solution. They're not just going to have me sitting, rotting and playing with the Rezzies. Not going to happen. Amrim's Man United can't allow that to happen.
I think they might,
That's even worse for us if that happens. I think they find... You go on loan and Man United have to subsidise some of my wages, and the new club does. And I still get my 220 grand a week by hook or by crook. Or they sell me and find a solution, and I get paid off, and then I'll negotiate less wages at the new club. However we look at it, if you're the player, this is the problem. We keep giving the players the power, which is why, again, the same with Rashford. His camp's going to say, mate, you're on this type of money. Barcelona might want you on loan, let's say. Man United are going to have to accept that. What are you going to do? Amrim's made it clear he can't come back here. So again, we're going to be stuck. We're paying for the sins of the past.
But how much are we demanding for Jadon Sancho? What's the figure? Is it like 20?
Well, it was an obligation of 25 million, wasn't it? Which Chelsea said no.
So now he's back. Are we still going to ask for 25?
I think that's probably the negotiating position. But I do agree with Flex. I think a loan move is more likely, probably overseas, maybe Borussia Dortmund. I don't see him wanting to go to Saudi Arabia. He didn't when it all kicked off with Erik ten Hag in that January window. If you remember, the English window was shut. The Saudi Pro League was still open. He point blank refused to go there. West Ham have shown a bit of interest. Maybe a look at what Jesse Lingard did in terms of, in the short term anyway, reviving his career there. But he's not going to take a pay cut. I think Flex is right. So this is a situation that United have got themselves into. But I do think there's every chance that when they get back for pre-season training, him and Marcus Rashford
they'll be there.
Will be asked to train with the kids.
Asked to train with the kids, right?
Rashford's not got a shirt number. We've missed this. Mateusz Cunha is going to get the number 10 jersey.
Fact. That's a pretty...
Or
that's what's out. Yeah.
That was part of the negotiations when he first met Manchester United. He wanted that number. That's a pretty clear indication that he's not part of Ruben Amorim's plans. As I say, if there is a way back for any of that trio who've been out on loan, I think it is only Anthony, because actually when he's pitched him in at times, he's done OK, Anthony, and I think he showed the right attitude in training. Humble, by the way, is not a word that you would necessarily associate with Jadon Sancho.
Agreed.
Right, Andre Onana and Rasmus Hojlund. Exit-wise, are United actively looking at what could be happening here? Reports about, Inter Milan being in contact, and of course with Andre Onana as well. There's uncertainty there.
Yeah, I think Inter are one of the clubs who are showing an interest in Hojlund. There's a lot of interest, actually, back in Italy, where he did quite well to get that move to United. Problem is, in this PSR age, they paid 72 million quid. If they sell him for 40, and maybe that's being optimistic, that's going to go down as a negative on the balance sheet. So that's not great business. But I do think that they will look to move him on. I said this a few weeks ago. Got a bit of stick, actually, from a certain rival YouTuber, but I think he's had to eat his words since then. He's clearly not equipped to be that number 9 that Ruben Amorim wants. He gave him plenty of chances last season, right up until the Europa League final. I was very frustrated with his performance in that, so I think a parting of the ways is inevitable. Onana, same thing, really, paid a massive fee. You look at the fact Inter got Jan Sommer for £5 million to replace him. I think we know he came off better in that particular transaction. I think he wants to stay and fight for his place at United, and I don't think the goalkeeper is necessarily the main priority in terms of bringing a reinforcement at this stage. There has been a little bit of talk of Emi Martinez, but I'm not sure they're going to follow through that interest.
And should a goalkeeper be a priority? And what are your thoughts on this Rasmus Hojlund situation?
I mean, I felt sorry for Hojlund that didn't he talk about his contracts and he got the years wrong.
Ever so slightly, yeah.
I do just feel a bit sorry for him sometimes.
Says he wants to stay and fight for his
even
place
when he's coming out saying he's going to fight for his place, he doesn't even know when his contract ends. Like, I really did feel for him, but I think this is a situation where I think if you could get a sale, you know, like Crookie said, you know, the PSR, it's difficult, that would be good. I think a loan move would be best because let's say a number 9 does seem to be the priority. Let's say that we do get somebody in like an Osimhen, like a Gyökeres. You would like to think someone like Gyökeres would be able to, you know, adapt and understands the Premier League and would be okay. Even without Rasmus Hojlund, if you still need other players to pick up the slack, you've got Cunha with the goals, you've got Mbeumo with the goals. You do still have Joshua Zirkzee, who towards the end of the season had been impressing. You've got people like, you know, Chido Obi, who was getting opportunities. I'm not saying he'd be a starter every week, of course. You've got somebody like Ethan Wheatley as well, who I know he went on loan. It didn't really work out. But 9 goals in 14 games for the under-21s, 19-year-old kid. There's a couple of people that can chip in when needed. So I think that a loan move, rising the stock and then getting rid would be good. My only concern is if he does go to Inter Milan, I don't know how much game time he's going to get because although you've got a new manager, you've still got, you know, Thuram and Martinez who are playing up front as a 2. Are you really going to drop one of them out for Hojlund? So that concerns me. I think Italy could be a good move, but is Inter really going to be the place that he'll be able to get game time, build his confidence, raise his stock? Not too sure. Regarding Onana, I agree with Crookie. I think the goalkeeper doesn't seem to be 100% the priority. I get people's concerns with him. Emi Martinez, I think they got the same amount of clean sheets. I know that he's done amazing things for Argentina, for his nation. I just think he's consistently inconsistent, if I had to, describe Martinez. So for me, I'd rather focus on other areas, but I understand people's concern that they don't want to see him, goalkeeping.
Get that goalkeeper situation right at the top of the pile for me.
Same.
I think it's one of our after the striker. I honestly think it's probably the most. It's so bad. I try, Onana. There's just too many mistakes.
It's not good enough.
Exactly.
It's just not good enough. It's just simple. And sometimes you can just give an honest assessment. And, we've given him every opportunity. We've tried to back him as much as we can. I was saying things like, he's good in the media. I was doing everything to be positive. I was doing everything. Yeah. But he's just not good enough.
No.
And we signed this goalkeeper. I'm sorry to go in on him like this. I will rein it back a bit. But we've signed a goalkeeper, apparently for his distribution. And even that's poor. He can't distribute the ball properly, and he can't shot stop. So there's just no point.
Apart from that,
he's a good goalkeeper.
Exactly.
Before we move on, though, we've got to talk Alejandro Garnacho. Crookie, just before we get to Ryan, because he's going to have to do his little monologue / eulogy little thing he wants to do.
I didn't want it to end like this, Garner. I didn't want it to end like this.
But just set the scene. I mean, we've seen the reports and we've known for quite a while that it is over for Alejandro Garnacho at Man United, isn't it?
Well, he's been told it publicly in front of his teammates by Ruben Amorim. Obviously far from happy with his antics before and after the Europa League final. But we talked a lot there about players who maybe could generate interest going out on loan. There are very few players in the squad that if you're actively needing to sell someone to bring in a new body, that you're going to get a decent fee for. And him and Kobbie Mainoo are probably the two. And I'd much rather keep Kobbie than Garnacho. It wasn't a great season for Kobbie Mainoo, but I think there really is a generational talent in there potentially. I've defended Garnacho at times. I think he has the ability to be a very exciting player. But then you look at his numbers. Yeah. Barely scored a goal in the second half of the season. Barely made a goal in the second half of the season. Misses big chances. If you're going to get 50 million quid for him, I think you've got to suck it up, Ryan. I really do.
Yeah.
Would you not swap him for Victor Gyökeres?
Well, given
yes or no?
When you put it like that,
given everything, given the circumstances, I feel like the ship has sailed for both parties. I do. I feel like Garnacho is now over Manchester United, and I think Manchester United over Garnacho.
He doesn't want us anyway.
Yeah, he didn't need United anyway. He didn't even like him anyway.
Well, I think when he's been, you could see when he was on that post tour. It checked out.
It was awkward.
It was awkward. He checked out and look.
Surely you've lost a bit of love for him as a result of that. He's still got a professional job to do. Look at Casemiro. Look at his comments, right? This is someone who's won it all in the game. The season's international. He basically said the manager didn't fancy me when I came in.
Yeah.
And my biggest triumph of my career is proving him wrong.
Yeah. Well,
Garnacho's done the opposite and turned into a sulky teenager.
Well, he's 20. He's a sulky 20-year-old. Look, I think, don't get me wrong. Those comments, he didn't cover himself in glory. But I do feel like I still stand by the fact that it's been so far blown out of proportion, getting an emotional 20-year-old after a Europa League final. You've only got 20 minutes. I'm going to stand by that. I've said it enough times, so I'm going to park it there. But Garnacho, like you've just said, my point was, how many players are demanding a big fee like that? We're talking, what is it, 40, 50? There was talks of 60, 70 million in January.
Should be.
It should be. Exactly right. There's such a quality player in there. You've got the talks of Napoli who are interested in him. Look what Napoli have just done. He's a fantastic player. Unfortunately, it's not worked out. I do think we've let him down a little bit. I'm not going to lie to you. I think we've let him down a little bit. And I'll tell you for why. We've been over-reliant on him. He's a 20-year-old that one season he showed spark, he showed promise, he showed everything. He was the future. He sat on the billboards with Kobe Mainu and Hojlund, and everyone was getting tattoos of that. Garnacho was. Do you know what I mean?
Do you have one?
Listen, I'm not going to show what's on my calf right now.
Yeah.
But no.
What was Ryan Giggs doing at 20? What was Wayne Rooney doing at 20?
Far better player, and so is Rooney. Look, these are different. You can't compare different players have different mentalities.
What was Ronaldo doing at 20? Because he basically wants to be Ronaldo, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Ronaldo's his idol. But what I will say is, he showed so much promise in that season. This season, he's had half of a bad season. First half was okay. Second half was pretty poor. Towards the end, his final product started getting better. I was being told in this very studio by certain people, he can't cross with his left foot. Well, guess what? He can. He kept putting it on the penalty spot. The last 10 games he had, he was delivering. He's still got it in him, Garnacho. And I just feel the fan base turned on him too quickly. I'm not going to lie.
Answer the question.
He was scapegoated.
If you had to sell Garnacho to get Victor Gyökeres, would you do the deal?
Yes.
There we go. I like that.
Look, you're putting Garnacho in a category of players who have had stinking attitude. It's not been that bad. It's been blown way out of proportion. But yes, he demands a big fee. We take that fee. We get Gyökeres. Happy days.
And do you see some of the points that Ryan's making here?
This is where we've talked about before. Again, as an academy player, you're a Manchester United player. You need to understand the assignment. And I just think whilst last season he really was brilliant, and I couldn't appreciate what you're saying, but I do think you should understand that you're a Manchester United player. You should understand what is expected of you, to not say things like that, to not allow your family members to say things like that. And I think it does show the mentality that it is all about him. And I think when we spoke about it, Darren Ambrose said, as a former player, that would really rub me the wrong way. And like Crookie said, I don't think you can get away with age, because we're seeing younger players, Lamine Yamal as an example, who's a teenager, these younger players that are coming through, that are being catapulted into stardom, that are still able to have a good mentality.
Strong words from the panel on Alejandro Garnacho. Let us know how you guys feel in the comments, man. Has he been treated harshly? Has he been scapegoated? Or is it time? Is it just a byproduct of change of manager, change of system and PSR?